And welcome back to another episode of the Office Dynasty League podcast. I am your host, John Yaney, here with my co host, Mac White.
Hey, John.
And
I'll be honest, your intro sounded a little less enthusiastic as normal. Are you feeling okay today? You didn't seem excited to be here.
it's crazy you mentioned that. I was actually about to criticize you. You have not complimented me on the number of weeks in a row I've gotten the name of my own podcast right.
Well, personally, I was more impressed with the number of ways in which you got it wrong than just getting it right. So I'm kind of disappointed, actually.
Okay. Well, even when I'm right, I'm wrong. You sound like my dad.
You're
All
finally
right. What?
finally learning.
Fair enough. We're actually here with our very special friend and guest of this week, Will Kelly. Will, say hi to the people.
Hello, people. It's great to see you all. I am Jonathan Brooks' number one fan.
Yes. Yeah, most people, when they give us requests to be on the pod, do not also request a hat and jersey that they want to be wearing in their cartoon image for the cover of the pod. So if you opened this up and thought we were just being mean, to be very clear, Will asked for this.
Yeah, I mean, number one running back in the league. Just give it 2 years.
2 years.
We've
That's
seen
incredible.
crazier things.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
actually
James
have.
James Cook rising from the ashes. Kendra Miller rising from the ashes. Anyway, I'll be quiet.
Well, to actually mention a couple of guys who have risen from the ashes, Quentin Johnston. I remember back a few years ago, you picked up Quentin Johnston, and I think I told you ahead of that draft. Somehow this is a pattern for us, but I told you ahead of that draft I wouldn't touch Quentin Johnston with a 10-foot pole. He just fits this scheme of players that they were advertised as very tall and very fast in college, and then weren't quite as fast or weren't quite as tall as people thought. And all of a sudden, they're just not very good in the NFL. But Quentin Johnston beating the narrative.
Yeah, so my thing about that is you were definitely right about Quentin Johnston before Jim Harbaugh got in there. And I just feel like he fits that mold of like the guy in a Harbaugh offense that's going to catch the ball well. Think like Roman Wilson at Michigan, right? Yeah, so that's kind of what I thought. I definitely felt like I had screwed up a lot that first year. And then last year we kind of saw more, a little bit more of the flashes, and now he's finally kind of coming into his own as a real fantasy threat, not just viability, but an actual threat. So yeah, super excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, viability is one way to put that. He's not coming into his own. He's here. Quentin
Yeah.
Johnson is he's averaging 17.3 points per game so far this season through 5 weeks, and is projected to score 16.11 this upcoming week against the number seven ranked secondary in football, and somehow your Miami Dolphins. So it's less of Quentin Johnston has like he's beating the narratives, he's scrappy, and maybe this is a feel good 5 week story, but like he's here. I mean, if the season ended today, he'd make an all pro team.
Right. And I mean, like, it's crazy to think that a first round pick is considered as beating a narrative, right? Like he's
Right.
and I guess that's kind of indicative of a lot of receivers in the last few years that have kind of fizzled out or that didn't really pan out, right? Like,
Sure.
but anyway, yeah, I'm a big Quentin Johnston guy. I'm a big believer in. I mean, let's talk about Trevor Lawrence the other night scoring several points on it after falling down. Like, that's great. He's not even my starter, but like I'm tempted to consider starting him for the memes alone. Yeah. Oh, Max raising his hand.
So that you just got a glimpse into some of the inner workings of our pod. As you know, John loves to talk, but John also does a good job of facilitating the conversation. But whenever I want to get a question and I raise my hand on the chat, and we did not
Find
inform
that
Will
ahead of time.
Sorry, Will, continue. I want to you continue your Trevor Lawrence thought. I just do have a question whenever
Yeah.
there's a natural break.
So I thought I'm thinking to myself with this Trevor Lawrence stuff that his numbers are not. I mean, if I'm remember now, I'm gonna have to look it up. But if I'm remembering right, his numbers aren't too far off of Bo Nix's for the first 5 weeks of the season. And I mean, yeah, I could use a better quarterback for my team, but I feel like those two guys are viable enough for what I'm looking for, especially how how we value quarterbacks in our league for the most part.
Sure.
But
And
yeah,
we'll jump into quarterback value a little later once Will jumps off. But yeah, it is definitely a bit of a redeem team in front of me right now. Mac,
So talking about Quentin Johnston, I'm very curious, Will. Who would you rather have in a dynasty league at this point, Quentin Johnston or Lad McConkey?
ooh,
do I have to pick either one? Like
To pick
obviously,
one. You
obviously
one of them you're in a vacuum. Who would you rather have in a dynasty?
I think because the overall the overall target share that Lad McConkey gets, like it was only a matter of time before he finally saw the end zone, and we saw it this week. And I mean, I know that we don't take special teams points into consideration, but that should have been another touchdown that he had. He's just explosive. So I think overall, from a dynasty value aspect, I would take Lad. I think, like, yes, I think Quentin Johnston's the bigger asset this year, but as I've shared with several people, I don't think that the Keenan Allen hype train is there for more than this year, right? Like,
sure.
I think a lot of those targets are going to go back to Lad, and a lot of those red zone opportunities are also going to go back to him. So I think beyond 1 year, I would take Lad, but for what my team is set up for, I mean, you guys have talked about it previously. Like I'm very much set up to win now, right? And I've kind of gone a little more all in with still some hope with the depth in my roster and the youth that I can maintain some winning ways the next couple of years, not just this year, right? So yeah, but to answer that question, I definitely say Lad.
Crazy, it's a conversation at all.
Yeah, especially where their values were at the beginning of this season. I remember in another league offering just thinking maybe I could get something off of the little hype alone versus the fact that Tony Pollard was in Tennessee. I offered Quentin Johnston for Tony Pollard straight up, and the guy laughed it off. And looking back on that, it's like, man, I'm glad that I didn't make that trade.
You get some little blessings every now and then. I remember there a few years ago, I offered, I believe it was Matt, like Rondale Moore, a second round pick, and then just as a throw in Kyron Williams for like Hollywood Brown or something like that. And it was like, in hindsight, it's like the most slam dunk. You take that 15 times out of 15, and 9 out of 10 people in that group chat roasted me for it, like for
Right.
even offering that. So hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah, and I think of like other trades that I haven't made, like um the year that Kadarius Toney went off in the Super Bowl. The next year, what was that, 3 years ago? I offered Tyler pick 7 for Kadarius Toney straight across, and he said, absolutely not. I need more. And I am very glad that Tyler was greedy in that instance, because we saw what happened with Tony literally like 6 months later. So I was very grateful that Tyler was greedy.
Sure. Now, when you say Kadarius Toney, you probably don't mean Kadarius Toney. You probably mean the man who goes by Young Joka.
Is that a real thing? I
Yes.
I've stopped following Kadarius Toney's life, but good
And
for him.
in a
John, are you
very
sure
similar. Go
Sorry, are you
ahead, Mac.
talking about Bill Young
I was
Joker?
about to say, in a very similar way that Ja'Cory CrossFit Merritt wants to go by Bill, Kadarius Toney has demanded that everyone address him as Young Joka.
Well, different strokes for different folks, I guess.
I would
You know,
say most of his career he was a young Joker.
yeah.
Oh,
Never forget,
terrible.
never forget his ESPN thumbnail. He looks like a young Joker. So,
It was so bad.
um, but no, I think of that trade. I was talking to Mac a little bit more like separately earlier about moves that I've made that I'm glad that I held on. Like, obviously, I'm glad I held on to Quentin Johnston. I'm glad, like, it looks like Rashad White's going to be a good flex option for me for a couple weeks anyway before he's
Sure.
useless again. But like, I'm glad that I held on to Chase Brown. And because he hasn't seen he's seen the volume that's deserving of that you would think a running back one would get. He's just seen a lot of big defensive fronts against along with a really bad offensive line. I saw a meme that was like putting a 40-year-old Joe Flacco up with this offensive line is just elder abuse from Zach Taylor. So yeah. Anyway, things like that, and then I think of guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, right? Like I gave him up, or I might have actually dropped him for nothing, and now like he's boomed a few different weeks this year already. And speaking of Kadarius Toney, like his comp was literally Kadarius Toney light, if I remember right. Like
Yeah,
anyway,
when the Giants had Kadarius Toney on the roster, they just drafted Diet Kadarius Toney.
right.
We were talking about Chase Brown. It's interesting. Like, it sounds like you do a lot of like introspection as far as like stuff that you did in the past that you wish you wouldn't have done or
Right.
happy you did do or and I don't really do that as much. I think like as soon as something doesn't happen, I just kind of forget about it. But then there are things that like I went back and looked at the drafts, and I think we were doing some sort of like I was trying to figure out the value of certain picks and where they fell and what the hit rate was in different rounds. I had completely forgotten this. I drafted Chase Brown. And like that hurt. That really, really hurt. I'm like, when did I don't even remember drafting him, and I have no memory of dropping him. I
It's
have it completely left my brain until like after last season. Like this was something I didn't even notice until like this last off season.
Well, and then like I don't even remember. Someone was asking me what my valuation of him was. And I went back to look because I thought I picked him up in like the late third round of that draft. And then I look back and you picked him up with what, like the ninth pick in the second round of that draft. And
Third rounder. I picked him in the middle of the third, I think.
oh,
I've got it
well,
up. What year was he?
two years 2 years ago.
22.
24. Chase Brown. He was not a 24 draft pick.
I think it was 22.
Or
He was 22. No, he was 23. Yeah, he was
Okay.
the 19th pick in the draft. He went right
Yeah.
after Rashi Rice.
Fine, Will. You were right. Good memory.
Yeah. Well,
Out of the year.
because yeah, I thought that I drafted him. And so now I'm trying to rack my mind on how I got him. And I guess you must have dropped him at some point, and I must
At
have
some point. I had no memory of it.
Yeah, me
Now-
neither.
Will, looking back at this draft, this podcast is known for making a lot of fun of Tyler,
Yeah.
but we're gonna take a second and make fun of Matt. Directly after Matt picked Anthony Richardson with the 17th pick of the draft, the next three picks were Rashi Rice, Chase Brown, and Sam Laporta. Who's a bigger loser, the Indianapolis Colts or Matt Jordan in the 2023 NFL or the Office Dynasty League draft?
Well, given, being an introspective guy, I think to myself, I've also made some of those poor decisions looking back at like trading 2 firsts for Jonathan Brooks when the only other offer to Mac that he was clearly trying to trade out of was also me, and I beat my own offer, which is dumb. But like, So I'd still have to say Matt, but like, I mean, his team's in first place in the league and has, I mean, the best record and just, I mean, granted, Mac's team was just on a heavy bye week, but he kind of trounced him. Like, so I think all worked out for Matt, but in that situation, Matt was the biggest loser. It's like that year that that you said that Brian Robinson was the worst pick in the draft, and then he ended up being
Like a starter immediately.
yeah, being a starter and getting shot. Don't forget about the gunshot wound. But yeah, so I think that we all have those instances. But yeah, I think that Matt definitely overvalued a quarterback. And again, you guys said you were going to talk about that at some point. So after this, but yeah, like I overvaluing a quarterback in our league, and that kind of came back to bite him. But I
Sure.
guess it didn't bite him that much.
Sure. Well, you asked us ahead of time to have trades ready so that we could make potentially, nothing's decided yet, the first live on air trade on the podcast. Uh, Now, we for the listening viewer, blah blah blah. We have not talked about these. We have not run these by Will. We have not run these by each other. So we have no idea how this is going to go. This could be a 2-minute segment where we'll laugh both of us out of the room, or this could be 45 real world minutes.
Yeah, we love that.
We have no idea. But Mac and I both came with a trade to see if we get something done with Will. And I'm going to defer to my co-host.
Oh no, you go first.
So let me preface this discussion with a question. Was my answer to the overall value of Quentin Johnston and Lad McConkey, did that affect your trade? Either
No.
one of the trades?
No,
Okay.
it did not.
No.
We've
No.
discussed plenty, and we will have to see. But no, John, you please go first.
I've been tossing ideas around all day, and I keep thinking that this is either way too insulting to Will or not enough, and I'm going to get fleeced on air. There's really a no-win scenario here. Okay, Will, shot in the dark. Please be merciful. I am going to offer you Jalen Warren, Trey Tucker, and Ray Davis in exchange. Oh boy. For Chase Brown and Lad McConkey.
I I like the idea, especially since I have King Gainwell, and I think that backfield after the overseas game a couple weeks ago, I think that backfield is more going to be a committee. So I like the idea of having Jalen Warren on my team, but for the sake of like I mentioned earlier, Chase Brown's usage is just insane for someone who doesn't have that as many fantasy points as he probably should have, or yards for that matter. So I would have to pass, knowing that I don't have any draft picks, right? Like any draft picks in this draft. If I'm moving a player, I want a draft pick, like a higher draft pick to be involved. Does that make sense?
I hear you. I hear you out. My thought process was I'm giving you a little bit of insurance to that Seattle back, or not Seattle, that Steelers backfield. Giving you the heir apparent if James Cook ever, loses a knee or something.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we're talking about Trey Tucker, who has really had his moments this year. So again, I didn't run this by anyone ahead of time, and I'm probably going to get roasted when this comes out. But I thought maybe some assurances on your end to some potential versus, and the only reason I know this is because Mac and I talked about it in depth the other day. Chase Brown's averaging 2.5 yards per carry.
Yeah.
And
But
so
he's
not a
also
whole lot of
carried
reason
the
to believe in
ball.
that one.
He's also, how many times has he carried the ball in the first 6 weeks or 5 weeks?
I do not know that off the top of my head, so you'll have to give me a second.
Like 130? Is that right?
It's not close. He has carried the ball 65 times through 5 weeks, which comes out to an average of 13 carries a week.
Okay. I don't know where I got 130.
He has 160 yards, which comes
That's
out
what I
to
was. Okay. Yeah.
32 yards a game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what. Yeah. Because I remember after 3 weeks, it was 48 yards on 97 carries or something like that. I got it. I got him. Yeah. That's what it was. But no, back to what you were saying is like it's really a no-win situation when you talk trades at all. And like
Right.
with Adrian, especially looking back on the Adrian thing, like I I told a couple different people as soon as that podcast dropped, I said Adrian's in a no-win scenario because people have relentlessly roasted him for not potentially not taking Bijan when he had the opportunity in the first place. When because I remember when he said, "Yeah, I'm taking Bijan with the first pick as soon as Blake Corum announced he was going back," and I was like, "There's no way that that was ever in question, right?" Like anyway, but but he but I said there I told a couple people, yeah, there's no win for Adrian because either he makes a really good move and people are pissed that he didn't make the move with them, or he makes a really bad move and people flame him for making a bad move. And I'm not gonna say what I think happened because he's already heard it enough from people. But yeah, you're right. Like it's a no-win scenario when you kind of talk trades. So
Sure.
especially in the public eye, I guess.
Sure. All right, I pass the baton to Mac.
All right, we'll see if we can be a little better, Will. I
Okay.
think this is better. It's but definitely more boring, so we'll see. But you mentioned your quarterback situation. It's a little dicey, right? I mean, maybe you believe in it, but a little dicey. So I'm offering you Jordan Love and Dallas Goddard, okay, for Trevor Lawrence and Tucker Kraft.
Okay.
So my thought process is, let me pitch. Roll. Should I pitch or not pitch? I just let you process.
Let me I mean pitch it, but I have pitch it. Let me see if it
Okay.
changes.
Here's my pitch. You are set at tight end. Ferguson is like a stud, right? Like you're never going to start Kraft, I wouldn't think, unless Ferguson's on bye,
Right.
right? So, and you know, I guess Kraft has some upside for sure. I mean, he's a young guy, so maybe you want to hold on him for that reason, which I totally get. Um, but we've not seen it fully from him in year, I think 3 now, or is this 2? I don't know. But I thought, okay, so Jordan Love is potentially the best option of the three, considering Lawrence, Love, and Nix, potentially the best option this year. I'd say so far he has been. I don't know. Nix has been slow to start. But I think he's an immediate upgrade for your quarterback position, and he is still young. Like he could be your quarterback of the future. And then you get Dallas Goedert back, who's obviously older, but has actually been really good this year. So if Ferguson were to get hurt, you wouldn't be screwed at tight end. You'd have a very good guy to plug in there. So my thought is your tight end, you stay just as good because you're starting Ferguson either way, and then it gives you Love, who's a young quarterback who potentially could be your starter this year and going forward.
Well, okay, so here's my thought. I really like Jordan Love. I do agree with you. I probably would pick him over the other two quarterbacks that I have. Like Trevor Lawrence, he'll have a 25-point game and then he'll have a 4-point game. So that's what scares me about him. But and the Jags are quietly what 4-1 this year. Like that's impressive to me in and of itself. But no, I remember talking with someone, I think it was Matt a couple weeks ago, when I initially decided maybe I'll start shopping like Lad or Marv. And I said, if I did this, could there be a way that I could start Tucker Kraft and Jake Ferguson? Because at that time, Tucker Kraft had just come off of a massive game for a tight end, not just for a tight end, but for a wide receiver. And it was the same game that all the other wide receiver options just seemed to have gotten hurt, right? And then then he started dealing with a knee injury, and then so his snaps were limited, and then they had the bye week. So he's kind of fallen off the radar, whereas like Ferguson has just continued the same pace that you would probably expect Tucker Kraft to have continued it. He not kind of banged up his knee or quad or whatever it was, right? So I don't disagree that I don't fully agree that Tucker Kraft's a guy that we kind of had to wait and see on, because I think we've seen it, right? Especially in an in a wide receiving core that Jordan Love likes to get the ball around, and that's his dump down option outside of Josh Jacobs. Which, so I would be interested in talking more about that, but I'm not sold that I want to accept that offer. Does that make sense?
You can just say no.
Well, I mean, what
That's a no.
what about, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in Jordan Love. What would you do in like one across for 1-for-1 Jordan Love?
Um, Here's the thing though. I would need like a quarterback back. Like obviously it doesn't need to be good. Like, Lawrence is fine. So it's gonna probably be Lawrence and something.
Yeah.
Um, yes,
I have your handcuff for Josh Jacobs.
you do.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
do.
not that not that I would necessarily want to just give you that though, right?
I
Like,
don't think I would take that anyway, Will.
fair enough.
Ooh. Okay, I'm actually really weary of trading for handcuffs that I'm not fully convinced they're handcuffs, right? Like if it was like trying to think of an example. If it was like Brian Robinson and I had CMC, or if it was like Jordan Mason before Aaron Jones got hurt,
Yeah.
or I'm thinking of like a guy who's like if that guy gets hurt, like Trey Benson, right? Or Rashad White, right? Those guys, it's like no brainer. Like that's a handcuff. If
Yeah.
my guy gets hurt, I can just plug him in. Like that's why Rashad White's great because like if you lose Bucky, it's like well, you just plug in Rashad White, and it's essentially the same player.
Oh, what? Well, pause on that, because what happened the other night? Like, the Packers were on bye this week, so last week when Jacobs went out with like the cut on his knee or the knee injury or whatever it was, and Emmanuel Wilson racked up like, didn't he have like 3 rushes for 12 or more yards? And
He
that,
did. He did. I just think if Jacobs like goes down, like let's say Jacobs tears his ACL, I don't think the Packers are just going like, all right, Emmanuel Wilson, it's your backfield now. We're going to give you 18 carries a game. I think they go and they sign someone or they
yeah,
promote someone from the practice squad. Like someone offered me the handcuff for Hampton, right? Hampton. This was after Najee Harris got hurt. And they're like, hey, I'll give you Haskins for like a third rounder. And this is a different league. And I
right,
said, yeah, cool. But like, I don't think I mean, like, it's a little murky right now with Haskins and Vidal, or
yeah,
however you say his name. Like, I don't know how that backfield is going to go. Like, it could be a perfect split. It could be that Haskins gets 100%. It could be that Vidal's like actually the guy they really want to give carries to. Like,
yeah,
it's just like I don't. I'm a little nervous about trading for a handcuff and paying as if he's a handcuff when
right.
he may not actually be.
Yeah. I like I said, I like going back to the trade. I like the offer. I just like Tucker Kraft more than I like Dallas Goddard. And maybe that's because it's an Eagle. And maybe that's an
You,
issue that,
you definitely should.
yeah,
But that's why I figured maybe Love over Lawrence would be the
yeah,
same gap as Kraft over Goddard. But
yeah.
if it's not, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. Well, like I said, I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to pass on that for now. But again, what do I know? That might come back to bite me in a couple years, or even this week when we play each other. But
If I'm offering it to you, it probably is not in your best interest. So,
right, yeah, we've had those discussions too, I think.
yep.
Yeah, what an incredible advertisement for yourself, Mac. If I offer you something, you shouldn't take it.
Hey, I've found that transparency and honesty
Transparency is key. Like,
it works so much better than trying to talk someone out of the player that you're trying to trade for. Like, no, you're full of shit. You're trying to trade for Tucker Kraft. Don't shit on him. You're trying
yeah,
to trade for him. Don't. You're full of garbage right now. Don't do
yeah,
that.
talking like, go, yeah. people do that, and that's just the fantasy world. I'm not even talking about any specific people. Like,
For
yeah,
sure.
let me just talk this player down that I'm clearly trying to acquire, so I can pay less for this guy because I've convinced you that he's crap, but I'm still trying to trade for him.
Yeah, the only time that that's ever really worked on me that I can remember, maybe early in my fantasy days, I've just made a lot of really stupid decisions. But is when we're talking about specifically a handcuff, where it's like, hey, this guy is genuinely bad on his
Yeah,
own. Like this is not a good player on his own.
yeah,
However, if someone gets hurt, then he's awesome, but on like a 10% chance across the year that he ever even has that opportunity. That is nothing to you. So let me give you something that matters to you, and then I sleep a little better at night. That's really the only time talking down a player has ever
yeah.
made
And
any sense to
like,
me. But
yeah,
Will, run out of time here, but I think we'd be remiss to go throughout this whole thing without talking about the two big trades that you've made with each of us. The Jonathan Brooks trade with Mac, and then I think one that we can all agree maybe didn't work out great for you.
yeah.
But then on the other end, you made a trade with both of us this offseason to acquire George Pickens as well as Javante Williams, and you look like a freaking genius right now.
Yeah, I multiple people called me a homer when I traded for Jake Ferguson, George Pickens, and Javante Williams all in the same offseason. And I can handle that because the Cowboys offense looks, I mean, only thing stopping the Cowboys offense is the Matt Eberflus defense. So like I yeah, they look pretty unstoppable on paper. And I mean, Javante has had the best season of his career. I'm very thankful that you finally backed off of him a little bit. You know,
Uh-huh.
that one kind of bit you, but that's okay. You got Michael Pittman back, and he's been fine, right?
Pittman
Like,
and Warren have been fine, which is really what I got back for sending out Pickens and Williams. But
and then with Olave, like I Mac and I even talked about it. Like transparency was key in that because I wanted George Pickens and he wanted Chris Olave, and he told me afterwards, I think that I win that trade, but I think that it's pretty close because Chris Olave is one nasty hit away from not being able to eat hard food ever again, let alone play football. So like, yeah, I'm very grateful for those two picks. I think Pickens will slow down in probably 2 weeks when CD's back. But until then, like hopefully over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks, I can lock in a playoff spot for the first time in my ODL tenure. We'll
there we go.
see. But yeah, I Mac said he had a question for.
Yeah, real quick, this change of pace. Let's say there's an expansion team, and for some unknown reason, they decide to start a team in South Dakota. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you abandon your Cowboys fandom to be a team of the South Dakota Rushmores?
Uh, well, let you guys know my history of NFL fandom. I've probably been an NFL fan as long as John has. I've just switched teams a couple of times as I've figured it out. So it's no secret that the Cowboys were not my first love. I'm not the church in Ephesus that I've abandoned I did abandon my
Oh,
first love anyway. Sorry, I Bible. And but no, I couldn't do it again. In good conscience, I couldn't abandon this team. I've seen a
Wow.
lifetime of heartache in Jerry Jones running the team, but I couldn't abandon the team that I've abandoned other teams for. That would make me look like a fool. So
This is the first
sure.
time that no one would blame you for changing teams, and this is the time you choose not to.
yeah, well, like, I even think of like so going in. I know we got what, like 2 minutes, so
Yeah.
I'll try to go through this quick. Like, going back to basketball, when I was really big into basketball, like my favorite basketball player ever was Tony Allen, and he played at Oklahoma State, and he got drafted by the Celtics. So I was like, yeah, I guess I'm a Celtics fan if if Tony Allen's going to play there. And so then they won a championship that year. And I was like, yeah, this is great. I love being a Celtics fan. And then the Thunder came into town, and I was like, well, I guess I'm a Thunder fan now. But I was also like 13 when that happened, 12, 13 when that happened. So, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
You're good. He's sticking with the Cowboys for better or worse. So, Will,
as long as with the caveat that Jerry Jones doesn't live till he's 140. That's
Sure.
that I'm sticking with the Cowboys.
So you'll be okay as long as he doesn't live 3 more years.
Yeah, more like 6, but you're close. Yeah.
Will, thanks for being on. Love talking to you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Special thanks to Will for coming back and going through his team with us. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a trade done live and in person, but I'm curious what your thoughts were on my offer to him, Mac.
Could you repeat it, please?
Yeah, I offered him Jaylen Warren, Ray Davis, and Trey Tucker in exchange for Chase Brown and Ladd McConkey.
I think that's okay. Do you want the reaction that I wanted to give, or do you want me to be polite?
All right. So that's what Mac thought about my offer.
I started to no, I just I don't know if you remember, I read an article. It was after Dwight Howard got traded. And Dwight Howard got traded out of Orlando, and he got traded to, I believe, the Lakers, I think, right?
The Raptors.
Dwight Howard? No, not the Raptors.
I'm thinking of Serge Ibaka.
Yes, I think he went to the Lakers.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But I remember they got like Aaron Aflalo, and they got like a couple seconds, and they got Aaron Aflalo was the big piece in that trade. But I remember a lot of people saying that like the Magic got a lot, but it was like a poo-poo platter. It was like a big giant platter of poop. And I feel like that's a little bit of what you're offering for Ladd McConkey.
I was more interested in Chase Brown, and I just kind of wanted like a serviceable receiver. And I guess I'm just lower on Ladd McConkey than the consensus.
I'll give you a little insight as to what I offered for Ladd. I offered him his own first, in addition to I'm drawing a blank. It was his own first and Debo.
We're way off on Ladd's value, which is fine. Maybe I'm wrong.
He said no. Like Ladd's having a tough start to the year, but like I don't think 5 games like undoes what like the hype and just like you're low on Ladd, I think.
Probably. My thought is the trajectory of Ladd McConkey was like so clearly wide receiver 1 on a Jim Harbaugh offense, which is going to be good even if it's run first. And he has a great quarterback, and they're really investing in the line, and like there's just all these check marks of like where can someone thrive, and it's just like Quentin Johnson just completely derailed that. And my thought is like it doesn't look like there's really an avenue for him to be a 1 anymore. Like Johnson's just that good. So
I think that's an overreaction. I think that's an overreaction. I think that I think Will's point is, let's say that Quentin Johnson does just completely overtake Ladd as the 1. This year, that might hurt his Ladd's value. Like maybe in a redraft league, he doesn't love it. But I think like even this next year, if Keenan goes, like I think Quentin Johnson and Ladd more likely over time it'll turn into like a 1A 1B kind of thing. Like at a minimum, he's like T Higgins, or he's like the Rams era Robert Woods, or like where he's just this dominant like 1B. Like I think that's probably where he ends up. He's had a rough start to the year, but like I don't think 5 games like undoes like his draft pedigree and like what you see on tape and like what he did in his rookie year.
Sure. So kind of like could be a wide receiver 9, but is wide receiver 18 because he's just behind someone, or splitting with someone or whatever.
Just think about how high you were on how high everyone was on Waddle. Like his rookie year was
fair,
and he just kind of like, and I think that is a more defined like number 2 role than Ladd and QJ are right now. in my opinion. Like it's so far it's been that way, but like Waddle was never going to overtake Tyreek Hill. It was going to be like
Right.
wait until Tyreek Hill like ages.
Right. Yeah. But what was your offer? Go through it again.
Yeah, my offer was Jordan Love and Dallas Goddard for Trevor Lawrence and Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, so downgraded quarterback for upgraded tight end, and vice
Yeah,
versa
I
as
thought he
well.
might go for it, but I mean, I don't blame him not wanting to bail on like a young tight end promising.
Yeah, I mean Tucker
Just
Kraft is like tight end 6 right now, having already had his bye week.
he's tight end 12 actually. I looked into that.
Is
I
it?
don't really agree with
Maybe he was
Will
tight end
in
6
that.
before the bye week.
I don't really agree with Will in that Tucker Kraft is like this stud right now. I see Tucker Kraft has had like 2 good games in his career.
Sure.
But I'm also trying to trade for him. So I kind of thought maybe I was pre-hype, but I don't obviously I'm not pre-hype. That was kind of naive to think that. But yeah, I just think Tucker Kraft is a bit of more of an unknown. Like I'm not convinced he's just going to be this perennial tight end stud that
You know
that
how you would have gotten away with that is if
what
you had held on to Jaden Daniels and offered him instead.
That's true. So that's a perfect segue into our discussion of quarterback value,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
complicated issue in this league because we all have different opinions.
Yeah, well, this really got spurned from obviously, if you're paying attention to our league or the NFL in general, Joe Burrow's hurt, and I didn't have a quarterback I loved to back him up. So I went around, and a couple of people came to me, and I just realized that maybe my perception of what a quarterback should be worth is just really off. And so I ran it by some people. It seems like everyone's just everywhere. Like there's just people all over the board on like what is a quarterback actually worth. And if you go back in our league and look through the years, it's really always been all over the place. There's never really been a time where it's like, okay, if you're a top, if you're like an MVP caliber quarterback, you're worth like a late first, early second. And then if you're anything less than that, you're worth like a third. And if you're like, there's just never been this defined time of what a quarterback is worth.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know about some people what they think, but like, it's interesting because for a position that people have such differing values on, you'd think that it'd be much easier for us to come to agreements and trades, right? Because
Right.
the higher variance in how we value a specific position, the more likely you're going to be able to trade. Because if you value quarterbacks more than I do, like I will happily offer you an elite quarterback for similar
Exactly.
for a position that I find value in. I almost think like quarterbacks are just like very rarely discussed, even like they're not even ever really pitched in trade talks because it's like I got my quarterback, I feel good about him. I don't really need to address it. It's like the only time it ever comes up is when you need one, and once you need one, I think you mentioned like other people might kind of smell blood in the water, so maybe the cost of one goes up because of that.
Right. Well, and let's just, cards on the table on it. I had a conversation earlier, I think last week, with Tyler, where he came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in Dak Prescott?" Yeah, I would. I'm starting Jared Goff right now, and I'm going to be for months. And I could use an upgrade. Great. The problem is Joe Burrow will come back eventually. And he's gonna, this is a dynasty league. Like Dak Prescott's not going to be my starter if Joe Burrow's healthy, and there's going to be more games where Joe Burrow's healthy than he's hurt. Theoretically, please, Bengals. But Tyler wants a second, and I get that value to a certain extent. I really, really do. Where it's like in a vacuum, is the talent that is Dak Prescott worth a second round pick? Probably. But that's not really the position that I'm coming from. The position I'm coming from isn't like it's either Dak Prescott or Jared Goff. It's Joe Burrow and then having Dak Prescott as the backup for when Joe's hurt or bye weeks or whatever, or Joe Burrow with Jared Goff or any streamable waiver wire quarterback then the lottery pick that is a second round pick that might turn into like a starting running back, a starting receiver, that we've seen go pretty consistently in our league in the second round. And so he was pretty adamant. Dak Prescott is worth a second round pick. And again, I don't entirely disagree, but he's definitely not worth a second round pick to what my roster needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think if maybe it's just so hard because like if you tell Tyler no, like I've got Jordan Love. I'm like, hey, well, why don't you trade for Jordan Love? I'll give you Jordan Love for Goff, and something small. Like we can explore that maybe off the pod. I don't know if you like
Yeah.
Jordan Love better than Goff, but like I guess my thought is like if you're let's say you're looking for like a startable running back, right? Like maybe you have Jalen Warren go down and Achan goes down, and you're like, okay, like I'm absolutely screwed this year if I can't get a running back.
Right.
And you look around the league and it's like, okay, who's willing to trade me a running back? Um, a really good running back. I mean, there might be some people, but like most people, like it's like, well, I have running backs, but like I need them, right? Like I don't know, like I
Yeah.
need like three or four, or I need. So it's like, but quarterbacks, it's like I think there's a lot of people who just have this backup quarterback who's just sitting on their bench every week, and it's like, yeah, like I can trade him for something like a pick down the road, like that makes perfect sense if John needs it.
Right.
But it's just a much tougher sell when it's like a wide receiver or running back. I don't know. I just think it's hard to pitch someone to like I think trading a second for Dak like makes sense, right? Like I mean like you need that position and it's an upgrade and it helps you win now. But like if I guess it that's really to me that's it makes sense, but it's also probably an overpay based off of your team construction. I feel like you're paying a premium for a position you need at the moment, and there's just no reason to pay a premium when there's just I think more people willing to trade you that position. So
Well, and it's not even necessarily like the tradability of it. Yes, the best quarterbacks in the league are rostered. That is true. That's 100% true. Like, I can't just be like, oh man, Joe Burrow got hurt. Let me go stream Lamar Jackson, or like, let me go stream Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or whoever, and just go throw them in my starting roster. I'm fine. That's clearly not the case. Here's the actual problem. And again, this really relates back to what you just said about the whole like running back thing. Let's say my pick that I would be trading. It's a 2027 second that we're talking about hypothetically here. Let's say that turns into just like the most average running back you've ever seen. Like that turns into Commanders Brian Robinson kind of thing. So now I have a startable running back, and that's I feel like somewhat down the middle. I mean, if you go through and look at like some of the second round picks that have been used, Chase Brown, Devon Achan, like second round pick guys in our dynasty draft, and then like I'm not finding that on the waiver wire. On the waiver wire right now is Sam Darnold, who's QB 15, Spencer Rattler, who's QB 20, Aaron Rodgers, who's QB 24. And then it gets, dicier. But we're talking about guys that, like, if everyone's rostering three quarterbacks, all three of those guys should be on teams right now. And I can theoretically just go pick one of them up. And instead of getting like the 19 to 20 points I'd expect to get from Joe Burrow, I'm getting 17 points from Sam Darnold, 15 points from Sam Darnold. And it's like, I just can't justify giving up an asset that could genuinely, realistically, wouldn't shock anyone into being this top 15 to 20 running back or receiver in the league when I can just stream a starting quarterback at any time.
yeah, I think well here's the thing. Like I think we're talking about the value of quarterbacks, but I think the value of quarterbacks needs to be really split into two tiers, right? There's the value of quarterbacks who are worthy of being started, and the value of quarterbacks who are truly elite.
Yes.
I think the league appropriately values quarterbacks who are worthy of being started. Like you said, like Sam Darnold's on the waiver wire. Like if you truly got in a pinch, you could probably ride this season out with Sam Darnold. And like it's not ideal, but like that's probably not going to be the reason why your season falls apart.
Right.
Right. But like I think I legitimately think, and I'm guilty of this as well. I legitimately think the league severely undervalues elite quarterback
Okay.
talent. Like I was thinking about it. I don't know. Like Josh Allen is never someone I've ever considered trading, and no one's ever come to me trying to trade for him. But like, I never really think of Josh Allen as being like a key part of my team. He's because he's a quarterback. But I there's a good chance that he has single handedly won me like had maybe half a dozen matchups where it was just like the difference between him and like a normal startable running quarterback, like the difference between his performance and quarterback 7 that week
Sure.
puts me over. So, and I think like, I mean, just for what, Caleb famously says, Jaden Daniels was a throw in, which isn't really true, but he was included in a trade with pieces that were seen as more valuable. But I mean, I undersold on Jaden Daniels, who looks to be like he could be elite. Lamar Jackson famously went really cheap. But I know like when Lamar Jackson was shopped, like no one was really willing to pay anything meaningful for him. And how silly do we all look? So I don't know. It's interesting. Like I do think there's two separate conversations that need to happen, and it's the elite quarterbacks versus, hey, like that guy's better than the guy you have now. So therefore, like you should trade a meaningful piece for that to get better.
Sure.
I don't know.
I agree with you. And pulling up some stats from this season, the top three averaging quarterbacks right now are all averaging over 23 points per game. It's Josh Allen at 23.6, Lamar Jackson at 23.3, Patrick Mahomes at 23.1. Like all three of those, if you're getting 23 points from your quarterbacks, you're pretty happy with your week. A couple guys averaging over 20. The next five guys are all averaging over 20. So we're, at that point, we're 8 quarterbacks deep that are going to get you over 20 points a game. But then it's just this really slow decline. And I think it kind of just serve your point of like, 2 points a week isn't ever really going to feel like it won you the week most of the time. Like, obviously, we've all won games by like less than a point, less than 2 points, in which case that difference matters. But really, the difference between Justin Fields currently averaging quarterback 4, which is hilarious that Justin Fields is, and let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 guys down are averaging within 2 points of quarterback 4.
Yeah. So
And
the difference
so,
12 and 4 is the same as like 4 and 3.
yeah.
I mean,
And
we're handling
so
stats, but that still seems to be how most years go.
it is. It really, really is. And then if we were going to talk about like within 3 points, I mean, 13, 14, 15, 16, like 4 more guys down. So like we're talking about like 6 guys are averaging within 3 points of quarterback 4 that no one can even play in any given week. And so it's just tough because there's so many factors playing against it. And I agree with you. I think like the value of that Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes from a fantasy perspective is largely understated in our league. The problem is really the difference between like if it's going to take me, a first round pick to go up from, you know, Baker Mayfield, quarterback 5 right now, all the way up to Josh Allen. And like if someone came to you and said, I'll give you Josh Allen or I'll give you Baker Mayfield and a first for Josh Allen, I think you'd take that, right?
Probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the value you're getting from going from 21.1 points per game to 23.5 points per game is not worth a first when you consider, like, let's just say that's pick 7. Here are the pick 7s that have been in the league, in our league's history: Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, Tyler Warren. Those guys are all probably upgrading your flex play more than Baker Mayfield to Josh Allen is. But that's like I don't know.
Well, actually, I feel like that's probably a toss up.
I don't know if it is. I mean, for most people, like let's just
I
take
mean, none of those guys are like winning you weeks. Josh Allen does win you a week.
Oh, I mean, the upgrade of obviously, like I have my thoughts on Keon Coleman specifically, but like the upgrade of Tyler Warren or I would argue Jalen Waddle and Chris Olave over Dalton Kincaid's like tight end one right now. So it's helped because the tight end position is so thin, and two of those guys are like top five tight ends right now. But
No one's going to offer me that, John. But I think about if you had offered that in year one, like I think you win that trade.
I don't know.
I don't
Do you
know.
think
Like
don't?
maybe we don't agree, but I actually think like if somebody had everyone's kind of, I mean, not totally. I mean, I know Ethan, you know, used a high pick on Caleb Williams. Um, I know he really aggressively went after Justin Fields. It seems to be mostly Ethan who seems to value the quarterback position higher. Um, but I think like if someone had kind of zigged when everyone else was zagging as far as like actually going after like an elite quarterback, I think it could have changed a lot of what we've seen in this league. Like if somebody I'm trying to think like I know Caleb's not big on quarterbacks, but those one year his team was really, really, really good, but he just could never figure out who his quarterback was all year. And I'm not sure. I mean, having a Josh Allen might have had a different impact on that season. I know he'd probably disagree with me because we've had this argument before. Um, but I don't know. Maybe I'm overstating it. But I think there would have been I mean, look, actually, great example. Look at Matt. Matt went and got Lamar for not a whole lot, and like that's been a key part of his team's success. I would say when you're just having a guy in there who's just slotted in there for projected for 23 points.
Sure, sure. And I agree with that. But again, the point of the conversation is like, where is quarterback value? And I think that some of the examples you're throwing out there kind of serve to say it doesn't exist. It's individual. There's no consensus on it. When you're seeing things like you used this incredibly late second round pick on Jaden Daniels, um, and it wasn't a throw in on a trade, but it was close to it to make another trade happen. Matt what was the actual trade for Lamar Jackson from Matt? Was it a third or was it a very late second?
There were a lot of things going on. I mean, it was part of a bigger trade.
Sure.
Um, I don't know. I
But
don't
like,
really know what we're arguing here. I think we're just discussing, but I don't know. I think I guess my main thesis or whatever is elite quarterback play has a bigger impact on winning than the majority of this league wants to admit. That's my
sure.
thesis. I don't have data to
Okay.
support.
Well, I guess I would ask you then, like, where is that line to elite?
Oh, I mean, right now it's Lamar Jackson. It changes depending on the year. But right now it's Lamar
Sure.
Jackson and Josh Allen. Um,
Just for reference, Patrick Mahomes is right there too, from a
I
fantasy
know.
points
Well,
perspective.
I know. Like statistically through 5 weeks, yes, he is there, and he might through the end of the year. But I think like it's still those two guys in their own tier as far as like how we would rank them the rest of the season.
Sure. Probably. Probably. We'll see what happens with Rashi Rice and Xavier Worthy fully healthy and
I mean,
not
Mahomes looks
suspended.
great. Mahomes looks great. We'll see. I mean, Lamar's not even healthy right now, so he may not even
Right.
be.
Well, and Jaden Daniels, you'd assume, is going to re enter that tier, and hopefully Jalen Hurts for one of my league's sakes. But I think you may have a point. Like, there is clearly like a multiple point cutoff difference between the top play and the next. And that might, especially with the longevity of the position, there may be a conversation to be had there about like, is this been just like severely undervalued? And I'd say in the case of like the Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson trade, and even to maybe a lesser extent, like I got Joe Burrow for a second round pick. I think
Yeah.
that those trades largely age well. It's the like I got told, and no names, but like I got asked this week when I reached out about a quarterback, like, "Hey, you got some quarterbacks I'd be interested in," and I was responding to with, "Cool. How does Michael Pittman straight across the board sound?" And it's like, what are you smoking? Like, no, like not a chance. He was wide receiver 14 at the time, and I think he's gone up since then. Like it's just never going to happen. Like I would give you a starting caliber running back or receiver or tight end for one of your backup quarterbacks. And I think that that's really the crux of this is where is the value? Like what should the value be?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think it's just finding the people who devalue them and seeing what they're willing to take for a quarterback. Like that's what I mean, that's what Tyler did with me. Like I didn't value Jaden Daniels appropriately, and he was able to get him from me for less than he should have. I actually looked, I didn't realize this. Um, Lamar Jackson actually was traded to Evan from Dallas first, and that was for less than I would have expected. Um, but I mean, I think it's just knowing who to go to and who not to go to as far as
Sure.
finding value. Because I mean, I don't know. It's just it all depends on what they want or what they're willing to do. But I mean, obviously, we're never going to reach this consensus in the league as far as what a quarterback is worth because we are so far apart as far as certain members of this league from others.
Yeah. Here's what I would put forth. Here's where I think it should be, I guess. I think a quarterback is universally, and this is based largely on where you can get quarterbacks in the draft. We see quarterbacks pretty habitually go late second through the third round. Um, and that's getting them as a rookie. I mean, you got Jaden Daniels late second round. Obviously, Caleb Williams went fourth overall, but just flipping through just the 2024 draft where there were a lot of good quarterbacks. Uh, let's see. The next quarterback after Jaden Daniels is a fourth rounder, Drake May. And then the next one is JJ McCarthy in the third, Drake May in the fourth, and then Bo Nix and Michael Penix both go undrafted. Um, and then if you look, obviously there was only one genuinely good quarterback taken, or perception wise, this last year. He's taken as a late second round pick in ours. Is he?
He was like 15th, I think.
He was 15th. Going back years prior, 2023, Anthony Richardson is a mid second, but CJ Stroud and Bryce Young is the top of the third. CJ Stroud's mid third. 2022, that was another terrible quarterback draft, so that's more of a throw it out in the data point side. But 2021, you saw quarterbacks going late second through the third, and that's really it. Trevor Lawrence went 14th. But I would submit to the group, really, as Dynasty has gone on, we have not seen the best quarterback in a draft go, with the exception of Caleb Williams, until the late second round. I would say a quarterback, and then, again, good first round of the real world NFL draft picks through the third round. If you're not talking about an elite quarterback, or even one that you would be starting over someone on your roster, I think a third round pick is the starting point. I think you say this is a third round pick. That is the offer for a quarterback right now, assuming we're not talking about someone who's in the real world MVP discussion. Thoughts?
I mean, that's an overgeneralization. I don't know. I'm not willing to say that blanket statement. Um, it's hard because the reality is, I think with Dak specifically, I think Dak is worth probably more than a third, but less than a second. And that's
And here we are.
that's the limitations we have with the drafts we have. There are so many guys. It's like I don't want to give up a first for him, but he's not going to take a second for him, so we're just stuck. Like, and I
Sure.
think that's where you are with Dak. It's like the difference between a second and a third is significant. To Tyler, it's like, well, I'd rather just keep Dak for a third because a third's probably worth nothing. And you're like, well, I'd rather just keep a second than Dak because a second could be like a star for me, and I don't really need Dak. But I think that's really what it is. I don't know. I think there's just one of those many situations where he's probably worth what's in the middle. I don't know. We're
I
getting
don't
into
wholly disagree with that. I don't wholly disagree with that, but I think if you're in the context of a league where you can only start 10 quarterbacks every given week, if you aren't one of those 10 quarterbacks, your value just dips.
yeah, for sure. I don't know. I mean, this is how I feel about a lot of things, but I think this just comes down to being opportunistic.
Sure.
And you know, yeah, I don't know. That's what was so hard about having a stud quarterback was I was trying to be opportunistic, and no one was really interested in giving up what I felt was appropriate value. It's like when you have a quarterback, like he has an approximate value in your mind, but for whatever reason, our league's just not willing to match that price.
Right.
And I think that's really what it is. I think everyone knows what quarterbacks are worth, or at least they do when they're on their team. But then once you go to trade for one, no one's willing to offer that.
Yeah,
And I keep
that's
changing.
a fair analysis.
I keep changing the argument, but I don't know. I just think thoughts keep popping into my head.
Let us know. Throw it in the group chat. What is a quarterback actually worth? You know, you can get as specific or as broad as you want to be, but I think we've both laid out our arguments to the point where anything on top of that is probably us running in circles around each other.
One more thing I do want to say. So you're
Yeah.
wrong, John. This is different. It's so weird to me because in Superflex, I think I value quarterbacks more than pretty much anyone. Like in a
Okay.
Superflex, like feel like I'm taking two quarterbacks in my first two picks in a draft every single time. But in a single quarterback, I like swing the complete opposite way. So I'm curious how this league would be if, alternate reality we end up doing a
The super flex.
flex from the beginning. Curious how that changes things. But I know
It changes everything.
I swing the opposite way. So
I mean, this league in no way resembles the league it does, at least from like a roster perspective. If this is a super flex, it's just different. So, okay, yeah, throw it in the group chat. Let us know what you think. What is a quarterback worth in a dynasty 1QB league?
From team.
So, 10 team. Yeah, obviously, Mac and I are in a 16 team 1QB dynasty league at work.
It changes the value.
It changes the value a lot.
I think everything is worth more in a 16-team league.
Yeah,
that's how it feels.
Oh, yeah, everything's harder in a 16-team league. But okay, we're going to transition into talking about records. And we have, for the first time in our record-keeping history, a 2-game lead. Will was indeed victorious over Tyler by one of the closer margins this last week. Therefore, I am up 2 games over Mac, and he's going to need a lot of help. So, Mac, real quick, who are your picks?
John, we have less than 1 minute. We're not finishing. It's like 45 seconds.
Throw them out real quick.
Okay, so we actually ran out of time on 2 different Zoom calls to actually give our picks for this week. So we need to actually submit those. Mac is away, but he has texted me his selections for this week. If we're going to go purely off of what ESPN predicts is going to happen in our league this week, it has Caleb over me, Tyler over Adrian, Matt over Ethan, Will over Mac, and Evan over Dallas. Mac's prediction among that is Will over Mac, Tyler over Adrian, Matt over Ethan, Caleb over me, and Evan over Dallas. And I actually agree with all of those selections, except I'm going to flip Mac over Will and myself over Caleb. So we'll see. Not a lot of commentary on that one. Mac, do you have anything else to offer? No, John, you're so smart. Thanks, Mac. And as always, let the best man win.